Okay, I guess we'll get started. It's a couple minutes after the hour. I would like to introduce to you a friend of mine, good friend of mine, Jenny Tanner. Say hi, Jenny. And she is,
Hello.
she is a platinum executive, and she is on the advisory board with me. And Jenny, how long have you been a Thrive consultant?
I've been a consultant for coming up on 12 years.
12 years. Okay, you got me beat. I've only been here for 8. So
Yeah.
okay, very good. I sometimes have people in my team, and I'm telling them, something about earning the trip or something like that. They say, I hear people say, well, that's easy for you, Bill. You got that big YouTube channel and you got all these people that you can sponsor all the time. It's easy for you. So Jenny, you're a platinum executive. So tell me about your big YouTube channel.
I don't have one, Bill.
Here's the point, guys. She doesn't have a big social media presence like I do. And yeah, she's been around for a while, but she's done it the traditional way, and she's all the way up to platinum. So it very definitely can be done without a big YouTube channel or Facebook group. That's one of the things that we want to talk about here tonight. So you've done a lot of home tastings, right, Jenny?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And then on the last board meeting that we had, you were talking a lot about one of the booths that you just did at what was it, a trade show or a flea market, or what was that?
It was a preparedness event. It was a preparedness event kind of put on by the state of Utah. And I want to add, I mean, before we move on, I just want to say that's one of the things I've always loved about Thrive is there's really a place for everybody. Regardless of how fast
Right.
with your YouTube channel or whatever, it is possible for all of us to have wild, crazy success in Thrive, even without social media. And I love that. I love that there's something for all of us.
I wish, now I know we have 2 emeralds. I wish I knew how many platinums we have. Do you have any idea?
I don't. I was wondering that myself. I can count some up in my head, but I'm sure I'm missing people as I do that.
But my point is that when I made platinum, I was actually the first person in Thrive to do it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so my point is, all the other platinums out there did it the traditional way. Mm-hmm. And there, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 of us. I don't have any idea how many there are. But so tell me, just go ahead and take a few minutes, Jenny, and tell me about the booths that you do, the shows that you do, a little bit about how you set it up and what your philosophy is, and just take it away.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So I've been doing booths from the very beginning of my Thrive career, just sprinkled in here and there. My real success has always come from home tasting, but the booths have been a good way for me to gain contacts. And if things were starting to slow down at all with the home tastings, then I knew I could always just find a booth somewhere, and that would pick things back up again, and really get the ball rolling again for tastings and contacts and so forth. So I believe in booths, and I have a couple of things that I tell all the consultants on my team. And the first one is they do not have to be big. You don't have to do huge expos or trade shows. I have done everything from the tiniest little craft fair to large shows. And they're all, I would say that not a single one of them has been a waste. I even did a show this year in February. I did a local RV show here in town. He wasn't advertising for vendors, but I saw that there was going to be an RV show. So I just thought, wait, Thrive is a great fit for RVs. So I called him and I said, hey, I see you're doing a show. Would you like for, how would you feel about me coming and doing a booth there? We have this freeze dried food. People with RVs love it, doesn't have to be refrigerated, super light. And he's like, yeah, I think we'd like that. And so he let me come. But the show was really slow. And very few people came to the show at all. And still, it was worth it for me because I still got contacts from like all the employees of the RV place and the few people that did come through. Thrive Food is so amazing and so enticing and so versatile and needed by so many people. No matter where you're at, you're going to find people that it appeals to. And so I did that show that was really small. And then I did this larger preparedness fair that was a lot busier. So the point is it doesn't take you don't have to spend a lot of money, you don't have to it doesn't have to be big, and you don't have to have a huge elaborate display. I have a nice banner that I like. I did invest in that finally just a few years ago, but before that I didn't have a banner or a big display. I would just set up a table. I would set up some cans for display. You just don't need much. And although you can, it's always fun to have a great visual display, but it's not necessary. And then I always make sure to have samples. I do think samples are important. If you're in a place where you can do samples, and thankfully that's usually been the case for us. We usually sample something dry, and then recently, like the fruit, like strawberries and corn and asparagus in a little sample cup. Or in the past, we've also just shaken product out of a can into people's hands. You can kind of it works. It all works, but the sample cups are convenient. And then these last few booths that we've done, we've had some chicken salad made up, and we keep it in a cooler under the table. So we don't hand that out to everybody, but as you're talking to people, as they show greater interest, we'll pull that out and say, hey, well, actually, would you like to try some chicken salad? And we have some crackers there for them to try. Sometimes at booths, like as it was the case with this preparedness fair, you have an opportunity to teach classes. Um, and so we took that opportunity as well in this last event. And we actually cooked up one of the recipes from the chef's pack. And that really gets people's attention. If you ever have an opportunity to do that, and you probably know from your own experience that as soon as you cook Thrive food for people, you have got them. In fact, I'll tell this fun little story. I was manning the booth while my partner, Amber Spackman, also a platinum, she was doing the booth with me. We're across the street neighbors, and we've done Thrive together almost the entire time. She's been in almost 12 years as well. And she was off teaching the class in a little place that they had set up. And I was talking to this couple, and I could tell that she was interested and he was less so. And she was really, really wanting to keep talking about it and wanting to sign up. And he was politely nodding with a vague look in his eyes. And I told them as they were leaving, I said, you guys should head over to the class over there and see what it's like all cooked up. And then they left, and I thought, well, he's going to talk her out of that. But he, a while later, after the Amber had done the class, that couple came beelining back to the booth, and the husband had this huge grin on his face, and he said, you knew we'd be back, didn't you? And that is the power of the food, and we are so blessed to have this product that we get to represent. But for this booth was wildly successful. Obviously, we had a pretty excited crowd because it was a preparedness booth. Obviously, events in the world right now, the stars are kind of aligning for the demand for our product. So all of that was at play. And so the show was very well attended, but we had a difficult time, the two of us together, taking care of everyone. There were people lined up wanting to talk to us. They had heard of Thrive, and that is a benefit we didn't used to have back in the early years. We Thrive was brand new, and we were getting the word out for the first time. But Thrive now has a reputation. They have a reputation for their quality, and I mean, nothing can touch it. And so people are starting to know that now. And so they were looking for us, which is another fun thing that has happened in the last few years that we had not seen before. So they were coming to us, and there's a couple of little tricks that we've learned over the years with booths. Samples are good. And if you're at a show where people are not coming over to you, it's I learned a lot of these things from Monty and Debbie Abbott. They're some of you might know them, and they're awesome. But they taught some of these principles in the early days, and they were right on the money. But if you have the samples, then as people are walking by, you know, the ones who'll walk by and not make eye contact, and they're kind of walking as far away from your table as they can. If you have the samples, then you can say, would you like to try some pineapple, or, you know, whatever it might be, and or would you like to try a sample? And then they'll stop, and that will, you know, and they'll say pineapple. Well, what is it? And then you can explain. You want to at least draw them over to the booth. And then we'll of course have some cans on display. We will often display, excuse me, sorry about that. We will often display a couple of meals in a jar, just because it's an easy way for people to be able to visualize the food. And meals in a jar are popular, you know, as many of you are aware. So we'll often display a couple of those. And so there's a lot there for them to take in as they're approaching the booth. And then I like to just say, the longer they stay there and talk to you, the better things are going to go. So I like to say, do you have questions I could help you with? Because they're looking at all of these things on the table, and a lot of people don't know much at all about freeze-dried food. And so they'll start to ask questions, and then that gives you an opportunity to start, you know, telling them bits and pieces about the amazingness of Thrive, the shelf life, the, you know, how nutritious it is, things like that. I always add the open shelf life. That's very impressive. And the fact that you don't have to refrigerate any of it, even after opening. That's the meats and the cheese and the sour cream and so forth. That's another thing. I always mention those items that I just mentioned, because that's really intriguing to people. Wait, you have cheese, shredded cheese, and sour cream and meat, and they're intrigued by that. So you want them to, you know, the longer you can talk to them and the more questions that they ask, the better. It's easy to have someone there at your table and to just throw up information on them, and that is never as effective. It kind of needs to be a two-way conversation. And so you want to give them a minute sometimes to think and ask questions, and don't just dominate, don't just pepper them with information that it's overwhelming to them, and it makes you seem, you know, more salesy. And so that's something to avoid. We always have a lead sheet at the booth on a clipboard, and it's just a place where people can write their name and email and phone number, and then we like to get the city that they're from. And then it has little check boxes on the side where they can, and it says check all, or let's see, or it just says interested in, and then check all that apply. And then the boxes are having a tasting, becoming a consultant, monthly specials, monthly delivery service. And so they when they are at your table, you want to be sure that you get their information before they leave. And so we will, no matter what we're talking to them about, even if we're talking to them about our promotion for the show, and I'll tell you about that in a second, we want to make sure that they leave their information. But of course, you're not going to twist their arm, or that makes people like really not want to leave their information. I am a person who doesn't like to leave my information ever. So what we'll do is in the conversation, and I learned this from Monty and Debbie, you never like hold the clipboard out to them or hand them a pen. You just casually gesture to it and say, in our case, we'll say things like, yeah, if you want to leave us your information, we'll send you the monthly specials. And we usually offer to send them that Be Ready. No. What is it? What is the name of that document? The Prepare to Eat document. It's actually kind of a long, we have one printed up that we have at the booth, but we hardly use it. I mean, people hardly look at it at the booth, but we can gesture to it and show it to them. It's a little bit of a storage document, and we tell them we can send you that, the Prepare to Eat document. I'll help you kind of know how much to store, how much for your needs, and a little bit more about the food, and we'll send you the monthly specials. And they almost always leave their information, which is really cool. And so we that way we have them to follow up with later. But this last booth in particular, we offered a promotion for the show. And so we had some signage made up that just said, we decided between the two of us, Amber and I, that we would offer $25 cash back to people when they bought a kit. And that's just our choice. You don't have to do that. When you hit builder bonus, your commission on the lowest kit is going to be $40. So we felt like, we can afford to give 25 back. And so people seem to like a promotion. They seem to like a reason to sign up right now. And a lot of people, if we hadn't gotten around to talking about it yet, they would ask, okay, so what's your special for the show? And then we were able to say, well, actually, and we had the $100 consultant kit on display. So we were able to, show them what it looks like. And for the show special, we would explain the consultant kit. We don't ever want to deceive people, and we want them to know they're actually buying a consultant kit. So we explain that it is a consultant kit, that and we explain all of the things that go with that. They don't have any obligations, but they do get a few little perks personally, and then they have the opportunity to build a business and go from there if they would like. So we explain it and we show them the food that they'll get, and then we say, and we'll give you $25 cash back. Here, we'll either Venmo it to you or write you a check here on the spot. So if they decided they wanted the special, and many people did, then we had them sign up right there on their phones. And we had a little scan code made with our website so they could just scan it. And then they just signed up right there. We could help them through if they were running into any difficulties. And so they would sign up on the spot, and then we would Venmo them their $25 or write them a check if that was their preference. And so it worked very, very well. And I think that's something that we'll continue to do. But again, it's optional. And some cheaper options that we've both done in the past that are also effective are just to give away a bag of snackies. People, if they want to buy the kit there at the booth, then they can take away a bag of snackies or something like that. And so it worked out very well. And some people even signed up for the delivery right there on the spot. So I think that may be the main things, Bill. I'm trying to think what I may have missed. They're really fun. Doing booths is fun. It's really energizing. I'm not even a people person. I'm quite an introvert, actually, but the time just flies when you're doing a booth and there's lots of interested people, and it makes you so proud to be a thriver. And it's fun to work with a friend. I recommend that whenever you can do it. It's more fun to do it with a friend. It almost brings a better energy to the booth, because you kind of work off of each other and feed off of each other. And so that's what we did, and it worked well.
Really excellent. Thank you so much. I have some questions for you, but
Okay.
if you're watching and you have questions, please put them in the chat. and we'll try to get all of your questions. Um, I'm glad to hear you say that you were influenced by Monty and Debbie Abbott. Um,
Mhm.
they did a training for me. They actually were gracious enough to take the stuff down, so they had demonstration down to Aruba when we went there. What was that, 5 years ago? And they did a video for me, and they really covered all the details. In fact, I have that training video, guys, in my Thrive Trade Facebook group page in the guides, but it's old, and all of the principles they cover are still right on, but they talk about how to use the product brochure and all that kind of stuff that we don't have anymore. So that's
Mhm.
why I was glad to get you, to update all of that. But one
Mhm.
of the things that they talked about was that there's really two different ways to do it. One is to take an entire grocery store and try to sell Thrive products right across the counter, and the other is to take just a couple of samples and use it to gather names rather than make retail sales. And they said
Mhm.
that some people got really upset at them because they would hear that a booth works well, so they would invest all this money and take all of this product and try to sell it. And they said it just didn't work very well. And it sounds like
Mhm.
you're doing the same thing. You have a few samples there so they can see what it is, and then you just gather their information, and you let the website make the sale. You don't have to have the big, you don't have to look like a Thrive grocery store. So
That's exactly right. And I'm a little bit lazy. That there is a lot of work involved. If you're going to be trying to sell product at
yeah,
a show, usually you have to work with sales tax and you have to haul so much. It's nice to not have to haul so much product in to sell. And I will add though, you kind of plan for the show. There have been times we've done like little summer shows. You know how smaller towns will have like a festival in the summer or the spring. Um, and it'll be out in the city park or something. We've done booths there, and because that's not a preparedness fair, and because it's not um, even maybe a health fair, those are really good too. You kind of have to do a little bit more to get attention sometimes, because people are there to, get their cotton candy and, go buy, I don't know, a shawl that, Betty on the corner makes or something. And so in that case, we will sometimes like, put up a canopy and we'll string cord around the top of the canopy, and we'll hang snackies up, and we will sell snackies occasionally just because that draws people over to the booth. They're kind of at that fair to buy stuff, so they'll come over to buy a snacky, and then we can start the conversation, get their information. And so there are a few times we've done that. Snackies aren't quite as big of a headache as everything else, and that it does have a place occasionally, but I hate it, so I try to do it as little as possible.
yeah.
And that way you're not wasting money, or sorry, wasting time, handling the money and things like that.
Well, and you don't have to, especially for new consultants that are just getting started, they feel like they can't do a booth until they have, $1,000 worth of product or something like that. It's not
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah.
So,
That's something that, I love this business, you guys. That's something I tell my consultants. I'm like, we are so lucky. We don't have to invest much at all
right.
to get things going. And then once the ball gets rolling, you still don't have to invest a lot. So I like that.
And so one of the things that the main thing that they said they did was just use it to gain contacts to find hosts for home parties. And
Hmm.
then they actually ended up signing up quite a few deliveries and customers right there.
Hmm.
But that their main goal was to find hosts for home parties because that branch helps them branch out a lot more. Um,
Yes, and that was our second goal at this last show. We wanted to really showcase the consultant kit, and that's another thing. Depending on what you're trying to concentrate on in your business, decide what you want to focus on and focus on one thing. We didn't want to overwhelm them with choices,
okay.
so we definitely focused on the kit first, and then we were looking for tastings next. So if they were not interested in the kit, then the next thing we'd say is, we love to do home tastings. That's where we'll come and cook for you and your friends. We love to show off this food. It's just, it'll blow your mind. It's so good. And that was definitely our second thing. But we always lead with one thing only, because if you give them too many choices,
Right.
people just walk away. They don't like being overwhelmed and making decisions right
A
there.
confused mind shuts down. And
Mhm,
if you give them especially more than two options, they just,
mhm,
like you said, they just walk away. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um, have you
I'm
had
seeing
any go ahead. Have you had any issues with needing um, food handling permits or anything like that? The regulations by the county or different things like that?
some shows will be really upfront in telling you that they require that. And so we've done that in the past. In our state, you can just do it online and it's pretty inexpensive and it lasts for a while. Um, I don't know, in the shows I've done, they haven't been policed much. We are, of course, super careful with how we handle the food because we want our customers or potential customers to be comfortable anyway, right? So we are very careful with it, but we do, we hold food handlers permit usually at a booth, at least in our state. As long as one person at the booth has the permit, you're covered. So for this last time, we didn't, both of us, they had expired, so Amber went ahead and got hers again before the event, just to make sure our bases were covered. But typically we haven't worried much about it, especially the smaller shows. Nobody seems to care. That's just in our area, so I don't know. You'd want to look into it, but it's not an obstacle that is difficult to do.
Yeah,
I'm
I would say that has a lot to do with your location. Some places could care less, and some places are real strict about it. So it's best to
right.
check in with your local, your county or the whoever's putting together the show or whatever to make sure that you're in compliance there. So,
I'm seeing some questions in the chat.
yeah.
Lisa and George are asking how we go about finding events to set up. Okay, that's a great question. And the big one that everyone always wonders. So we have found it helpful. Well, first of all, when you start doing events, you'll find that you'll be networking. Suddenly you'll be hearing about events everywhere because the other vendors know about them. Sometimes people running other events will come to the event to actually invite vendors to their event. So that's really nice. Once you kind of get going with events, you'll hear more about them. And we've joined some Facebook groups that showcase events in the area. We also, if I'm really hitting a brick wall, I will look up convention centers in the area and I will just look at their calendar. And I'll just look at for shows that look like they, fit what we're looking for. And then usually the contact information for the people who run the show is on that calendar. So you can either go to the website of whatever show it's going to be, or you can contact the people running the event. So, and again, small town fairs, craft fairs, the 4th of July. There's a lot of holiday shows, especially around the holidays. And Thrive, I mean, like at a holiday show, you're showcasing the fact that Thrive makes the best Christmas gift ever, right? Give the gift of peace of mind. I mean, you can kind of tailor it to fit most shows if you use your imagination. So, and then the local regulations we talked about, and yeah, so fun events is good where people are in a good mood and everything. And then I think this is Molly. Is it Molly asking, when you work together with another consultant? Okay, on one booth, how do you put orders in and split up the customers between the two people? Great question. So it's nice if the person you're working with, if you get along well together, that helps. And then In the case of this most recent show, we were so busy that we were both standing side by side at the table, and we were both talking to individuals at the same time as they approached. So that works very well. When things would slow down a little bit, she and I would just take turns. As someone approached, she'd point to me because it was my turn, and then I'd point to her, and we would just take turns back and forth. It's not always going to work out exactly equal. Obviously more people might approach to her and that are interested in the kit, but it pretty much evens out well that way if you if you just play that game, and usually you come out about the same, and we did. So it worked out well. And when we did the tasting, since she was over doing the tasting and I had to stay at the booth, I just encouraged everyone who would come to the booth to go over there to the tasting. And then she and I had flyers made up, and on every other chair was her flyer, my flyer, her flyer, my flyer. So as she got to the end of the tasting and she was instructing them to scan the code to get the kit or start a delivery, they could just pick up their paper, and theoretically, we would get, the same or close to the same amount of people. So that's one way to do it. Somebody might have better ideas on that, but
Well, I have a thought there in that if the person that I'm with is someone that I have sponsored, then I would tend to push most of the people toward the person that's under me to support them, and I'm still going to get the same. I mean, if I sponsor somebody, I'm personally, I'm going to make 2% of what they sell. But Jenny, if I had sponsored you, you're on my first level, and you sponsor somebody at the table, I'm still going to get 2%. So it, to me, as far as the money that I make from it, it doesn't matter which level they're on. But by pushing them to you, I'm going to support your business and help you build. And to me, that just makes the most sense. Now, if you're two friends who are not in the same team, then that would be more of an issue, I would think.
You're absolutely right, and that is true. When I'm working there, especially with a new consultant, I will definitely weight it in their favor, always. And for instance, my daughter is jumping in. She's newly married, and she wants to do this, and so I'm doing a show with her coming up in a couple weeks, and you better believe it's all hers. I'm just there to show her how to do it. And so yeah, you can work it however, whatever the situation. But it is nice to also bring more people in to share the cost of the booth. If you're doing a booth that costs a little bit, it's really nice to be able to split that cost, and that sometimes necessitates working cross teams where it's not people on the same team. And so it would be an application where you'd want it for sure. Connie's asking what I mean by leading with one thing only. It's just this idea, Connie, that when they come up to the booth, if you say, oh, we have all this great food, and you can get on our monthly delivery, and we have monthly specials, and they're 30% off, or you could buy a consultant kit, and the consultant kit is really nice. It comes with all this, and you could become a consultant, and then you get 5% off on your own deliveries. And they are just like, wow, I just wanted some food. This is sounding complicated to me. And so we focus on one thing to emphasize. And in this case of the last booth, it was the consultant kit. And that's the first thing we talked about. And if they didn't want that, then we would give them other options. That's what I meant by that. And then EJ says that mention the Chamber of Commerce, and that's a really good idea to find events.
Okay, really excellent. Yeah, you talked about splitting the cost. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Yeah, okay. My computer's going in and out a little bit, so I didn't know. You talked about splitting the cost of the event. Do you go to ones that you have to pay for, and how much are you willing to pay for a booth?
Well, in the past, I've been really stingy and not wanting to pay much at all. But occasionally I just want to really get things going. And so it would depend very much on where you're at in the business. As a brand new consultant, I would say keep it really low, like maybe $30. If, if because you don't want to be overwhelming yourself with expenses. There are other ways to get the word out there. And then once you get going, you'll have more, room to, but right now I was having a conversation with another consultant, and this last booth I did, we split the cost and we each paid like 160, and it was very, 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 very worth it. So if it's going to be a really good event, you're definitely going to make back your money, but kind of make sure you have a good feeling about it. I would say you don't want to be spending money that you don't have,
Yeah, it would be a good idea to make sure you could afford to lose it if the whole thing's a flop. If you go into it spending $300
Yeah,
and you got to
yeah,
earn that money back and you don't earn it back, that's a problem. So think of it as an investment that you
yeah.
are willing to lose if it doesn't work. So,
Mhm. On that same note, though, I feel like Thrive is. I was just giving my daughter a pep talk today, so I'm feeling the spirit. And it is just that this is a business that is you can really succeed with this. We have so much going for us in this business. The product is the pinnacle thing. It is just nothing can touch it. And then the people, the culture is so good. Our compensation plan is amazing. It's so balanced. It just blows my mind. It's not this company. It's not a matter of you standing on top of other people to make your money. We're working together. We're progressing together. I absolutely love that. And so having said that, go ahead and have a little faith. If you put some effort into this, you're going to, you're going to make some money. You're going to grow your business. So, I'm just saying we can have a little faith that our investments will pay off. Should I say it that way? And Thrive. So it's worth doing a little booth and sticking a toe in the water. Sorry, a little bit rambly there.
excellent. Any other questions? This has really been good. Anybody have any questions? We have a small enough group. You can just unmute yourself and ask if you want to. No other questions? Okay.
Well, that just must mean I've covered all the bases.
You did an excellent job. I want to thank you
Just
so
kidding.
much, Jenny, for doing this. She's not part of our team. She's not getting any business benefit from doing this. It's just one of the things that she mentioned and that I really like about Thrive is that we all support each other and we all rise up together, and that's what she's doing here in supporting my team. And I can't even begin to tell you, Jenny, how much I appreciate that. So,
Jenny,
Yes,
is my mic on?
yes.
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. How do you make that scan thing for people to scan?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I just Googled it and there are free programs. It's called a QR code. And I think, oh gosh, do any of you on here know what some of the more popular ones are? Like maybe one of them is QR Monkey, maybe, I don't know, something. I can't remember the one I used, but I just, I Googled best way to do a QR code, and then I read someone's article that recommended the top 5 ones, and I chose that one. I thought that'd be safer than just choosing one from an ad, and it was pretty easy to do, and then I was able to print it off and save it, and it's very nice. And so does that help a little? Sorry, I'm not more helpful with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. Thank you.
And Bill, I just wanted to, going back with what you said, I wanted to thank you too. It's fun to be on here and see names and faces and feel like you're a part of my family too. And that's just this cool thing about Thrive. I don't know how they do it, but you do have that feeling that even though we're not on the same team, we are a family, and it's a big deal. So,
You know, I
so
want
thanks for
to
having me. I feel honored to be a part of it.
absolutely, and I wanted to jump off of what you just said there, and a little bit of a promotion for the convention coming up in July, because I was a Thrive consultant for 4 years before I went to a convention, and I lived in Pennsylvania, and my sponsor lived in Washington State or Oregon, I forget which, and I never even met her. And I was a consultant for 4 years before I ever met another Thrive consultant, and I was truly a lone ranger. Now, Michelle Grote, my sponsor, was good about talking to me on the phone. You know, I could call her and we talked a lot on the phone. So I was not without support. But then when it's the first time that I went to a convention, all of a sudden I felt like I was a part of a family. All of a sudden I was no longer a lone ranger, and I realized, hey, this is really truly a going concern here. And from that point on, my business changed because I had a different outlook on Thrive, and I felt like a part of the group instead of being a lone ranger. So, you know, I mean, I know it's expensive to travel, especially if you live on one of the coasts, you know. But if there's any way you can do that, I really highly recommend you start saving now and try to get there, because it can make a huge difference in your business. And
I second that. It's more powerful than you can imagine,
yeah,
actually, to
yeah.
be there.
You get into the Thrive culture, you know, and that we all support each other, and it's just, I never imagined when I started this that I would have friends all over North America, literally. I mean, I have a lot of good friends now who are Canadians. I never met a Canadian before. I didn't know. Do people really live up there? And now I've got good friends that I even know somebody who lives in Utah, for crying out loud, Jenny. So anyway, it's just a little plug for the convention. That's July 27 through 29, I think. So, okay. Any other questions before we close it down? No? Okay. I might also recommend that if you're on my Thrive Train Facebook group, that you go and look at the training done by Debbie and Monty Abbott. It's listed in the guides. They're the gurus. But some of their stuff, like I said, is outdated because they were using a lot of brochures that we don't have and that sort of thing. So, all right, I guess I will wrap it up here. Jenny, thank you so much. And I guess I'll see you next week or next month at the leadership conference. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has really been great. And I don't do these all that often, but I try to do them on a regular basis. So I'll let you know when the next Zoom training is coming up. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. You be blessed.
Thank you.
Talk to you next time.